into Your Life with Julianne Williams. Today we have a really special guest, and the reason why I have asked Jerry Skolnik to join us is that money is not a bad thing in our life, but sometimes we have been told that money is bad, that we can do bad things with money, that money is evil. But in the end, really, it's all about our mindset and how we use money. So today, Jerry is going to share with us some ideas on how we can reprogram our mind to understand how to use money for good and how that is a part of our life in a really positive way. So I'm going to add Jerry in right now, and then I'm going to go through his bio. So just here we go. All right. So everyone, as I mentioned, we have a really special guest today, Jerry Skolnik, and he is a really, really well accomplished person. I'm going to read his bio for you. He is a professional speaker who has spent the last 50 years in sales encompassing both the oil and beauty industries. He has 2 adult children and 5 grandchildren. Congratulations. And he lives in San Marcos, California, which is, it's a little far from me, but it's a lovely, beautiful area. And what's important is that he is going to talk to us about how to change our influences, change our destiny. And he does that through a book, I think, and he could tell us all about it, called, and I'm so glad you let me know this, that I'm not alone. We're all crazy, get used to it. So Jerry, let me turn it over to you and tell us a little bit about yourself, more than what I read, and then also about this really cool book that you just put out.
Sure. Okay. I was in the gas station business for 30 years and the hair salon business for 20 years and never loved either one of them. So when the pandemic hit, I sat and I just decided that I want to do something for the first time in my life that I love, and that's helping people. So I started studying positivity. I worked under Bob Proctor and then under Brian Tracy. And I learned so much in the past few years. I started doing Facebook videos a few years ago, and I've been doing them ever since. I do them every single day except Sundays and Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And they're very
that's
short.
dedication.
Yeah. Well, they're very short and to the point, because I know very few people have any kind of an attention span anymore. So I have my idea. I did think, I was worried that I was going to run out of ideas, but I never have run out of ideas. I have ideas down to the end of July into August already.
Wow.
So I do my videos, and then what ended up happening is one day I just said, you know what, with all these videos, I should write a book. And the pandemic was still in full force, so I wrote a book. And the name of my book is We're All Crazy, Get Used to It. Like I said, here's a copy of it. And Brian Tracy was nice enough to write a testimonial to my book in the back. So, and he's written 90 books.
Wow.
And I wanted to come up with a catchy title. And the reason that happened is I read one of the most famous books ever written by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. He says in the book that there was a guy a publisher who published the book, and the title, and the book did not sell. All they did was change the title, and the book sold like crazy. They did not change one word in the title. So that I remembered that, and I said, you know what, I really need to have a catchy title. But my book is all about turning your negative beliefs into positive. That's what it's all about.
So it's really about using your mind in a way that helps you be more successful.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, you can take almost anything and put either a positive spin on it or a negative spin on it. So what would you rather do?
That's
I did it about a year and a half ago. I put a positive spin on almost everything, and my life has changed dramatically to the good. So, yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about this money mindset, because I introduced you saying that, we're taught so many times by so many people and in so many ways that money is negative, that it's bad, it's evil, that it has terrible connotations to it, that if someone has some money, that they become a terrible person all of a sudden, or if you don't have money, that you're not good enough. I mean, I think it's both ways. And so that's something that you really do talk about. And then I want to talk a little bit more about the positivity thing too. But maybe you could explain to us, how do we change our mindset around our resources in relation to money?
Okay, well, first of all, the first thing I'd like to say is that we know alcoholics, there's no positive thing to that, and we know that gamblers, there's no real positive thing to that. Money is a very different topic, and you just said it all, that there's negative connotations, there's positive connotations. We don't know what to do, but basically, I believe we initially learned about money from our parents. I mean, that's most likely the people that started teaching us about money. Now, for people that are older now, these ideas they just don't work anymore. I mean, I grew up in the 50s and early 60s, and whatever my parents told me about money, I mean, again, our parents were here to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
And what they taught us is what they knew. And we take that through the rest of our lives unless you do something to change that thought. And there's so many things that go along when it comes to how we think about money. And I can go into this. Our vocabulary. Oh my God, vocabulary. There are so many negative connotations about. There's more. Let's put it this way: there's more negative connotations when it comes to money than positive. And I mean, how many times have we heard money is the root of all evil? Right?
Exactly. Right.
Um,
That's what they say.
money doesn't grow on trees.
Yes. That I was the whole, I'd say, hey, Mom, Dad, can I have this? And they'd say, well, what do you think? Money grows on trees?
Yeah, yeah. So you're led to believe, and then the flip side is not good either. If you had millionaire parents, they would just give you money, and then you really would never understand what money was all about. And that they say all the time that sons and daughters of rich people, and the parents die and they start running the company, I'm not saying this always happens, but a lot of times they don't know what they're doing, and they run the company into the ground because they just really don't even know what money is for and how it's supposed to be used, and so forth and so on. So I want to bring up, there's so many things I want to bring up, but one of them is a song from 1973
Mm-hmm.
called "For the Love of Money" by the
Oh,
OJs. By the OJs.
yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
song. The music is great, but guess what? The lyrics will just throw you for a loop. They talk about, they call it mean green. They talk about the root of all evil. They talk about lying, stealing from your mother, stealing from your brothers. Like I said, the song is great, but it's not something we want to listen to and have that in our minds.
So do you think that listening to that song negatively programs us?
Oh, sure. There's
Okay.
no question about that. That's the basic problem. There's also shame and there's fear when it comes to money. And what I learned about the word fear is fear stands for false evidence appearing real. How
Yes.
many things do we fear in our lives? Not only money, but all these, and these things never happen. And we worry about them constantly, and it just does not happen. There's shame involved too. Oh, I have too much money now. My friends aren't going to like me anymore. I don't have enough money, so my other friends are not going to like me anymore. And then I speak about vocabulary, and there are all kinds of stories involved. I could tell you a couple of stories, would be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be
Um,
wonderful.
there was, I do not know who this young man's name was. It never said in the book that I read, but this young man, he was in his early 30s. He had lost his parents. I believe it was in a car accident, but I'm not 100% sure. But as far as the story is concerned, it's not that important. This guy, nobody could understand why he was making millions of dollars. But what happened was he would make $30,000 a year, and that's all he could make. And every time he would make more, he would sabotage himself and go back to 30,000. So his uncle was kind enough to put him into therapy. And after a couple of months in therapy, what ended up happening is it came back that his father, when the kid was 5 years old, his father pointed at him and said, "You will never make more than $30,000 a year." And it stayed with him. He worked through more therapy, and now this guy's making seven figures because he's a genius. But it just goes to show you, we are computers, no different than any other computer. We are way more sophisticated than any computer that could ever be made. And that's good and bad sometimes, because what we do with our minds, we could run rampant, we could do great things with it, and we could maybe not do such great things. There's another story. Oh, this story is even better, I think. A number of years ago, a guy came up on stage. I think his name is Dr. Sterling. I'm not 100% sure. But he came up on stage. There's a large crowd. He just stood in front of the audience. He didn't say anything. And the audience was getting very antsy. And all of a sudden, he takes a wad of cash out of his pocket and spreads open the money and starts kissing it. And he says, isn't this the greatest thing ever? Oh my God, money, there's no such thing like money, and it's this and it's that. And the audience was horrified. Remember, we're talking about a long time ago, which made it even worse in those days. So he stopped for a minute and he said, let me ask you a question. What if I brought my grandson or my granddaughter up on stage and started kissing them? Would that be okay? And the crowd started clapping and everything. He paused again, and then he said, so what's wrong with loving money? And there was dead silence in the crowd. Dead silence. He made his point. What's wrong with loving money? There is nothing wrong with loving money. And what I like to say is, if you have any fears about making money, or if you have any hangups about making money, what I say when I speak is, I feel I'm a nice person. I'm sure you're a great person. Everybody in the audience is a great person. If you're a nice person, you should feel obligated to make a lot of money, because you can help so many people. It's just a way to trick your brain, but if that's what you need to do, there are so many people out there who are capable of making a lot of money, and they would do wonderful things with it. So why don't they do it? Because of all these pent up crazy things in their mind, that it's not a good thing, I shouldn't have it, it's no good. It's silly. We all deserve as much abundance, riches in abundance, as we can have. Every single one of us. And I'll say something else. One of the things that I've learned, and I learned this recently, and boy, was I taken aback when I heard this, but this is so true. You must wish everybody well. Everybody. Because when you don't, that is going to come back to you. If you think positively, you're going to get positive. If you think negatively, you're going to get negative. If you think lack and poverty, that's what you're going to get. If you think riches and abundance, that's what you're going to get. And if you wish people poorly, you're only hurting yourself, because that's going to come back to you. I say, and I learned this, I don't care if you dislike somebody, that's because they have a lot of money or anything. Wish them more money. Because if you wish them more money, you're going to have more money. I think it makes all the sense in the world. When I first heard it, I was, wow. But it's really true. It makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. And, I talk to women a lot about the scarcity mentality, because as we have been able to rise more in the corporate world and in the professional world, we have not done as good a job, I think, as helping each other as men have in the past. And so women sometimes can have this scarcity view because we don't think there's enough places for all of us. But in fact, there is more than enough room for everyone to be abundant. And in addition to that, what I consider abundance is different than what you consider abundance. And I may be thinking you're trying to take my gig, but really you have a whole nother thing in your mind about what makes you feel rich and abundant, because it's not always money. And so we limit ourselves and other people around us because of that fear and because of that scarcity mentality.
Yeah, there's no question about it. There's so many other things. Vocabulary is huge.
So maybe talk to us, and I want to talk about false positivity too, but let's start with the vocabulary, because I think you just have really come, just that is so important. Can you tell us, what are some of the words that we use that are not helpful? And then what are some of the words that we should be using that will help us change our views internally?
Well, let me start by saying this. When you use good words, you can't feel bad. And this is not about money, it's about everything. When you use bad words, you can't feel good. One of the words I came up with very recently, and I wish I had come up with this years ago, one of the words that injure you They don't injure anybody else. They injure you, is the word hate. Hate should be a word taken out of your vocabulary. Change hate to I don't like. Because chances are, whoever you hate, they don't even know they don't even know you hate them. And whatever thing you hate, whether it's your job, your boss, a person, you're only hurting yourself. And it gets you sick inside. So you need to change that word hate to I just don't like such and such or so and so. So that's one word. Lack and poverty need to go. Those words have got to be out of your vocabulary. Think riches and abundance. Don't think lack and poverty. And there's nothing. The thing is with most of us, there's nothing wrong with thinking riches and abundance. Nothing wrong with it at all. Every single one of us deserve riches and abundance, and we should have it. But some of these words, failure. There's no such thing as failure. Failure is feedback. You know now what not to do. Now you have to do something else. And there's no better example than Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison failed in making the light bulb over 10,000 times. And when people asked him why he kept doing this, you know what he would say? I just found another way not to do it.
That's right. Okay, so, and I want to keep going on words, but you sort of triggered a thought for me, which was,
sure.
Okay, if I am using the words like lack or poverty, so if I say to someone, I just don't have the money for that, what can I say instead of that to open up my mind to thinking that it's a possibility rather than an impossibility?
Instead of saying that, what you're saying, I'm working on a couple of projects right now, even if it's not true, but they're in your mind. I'm working on a couple of projects right now, and I absolutely believe that at least a couple of them are going to come to fruition. I'm going to make a lot of money. Because when you say I don't have the money, that's what you're going to get. You have no money. And it's going to, again, whatever you say is just going to come back. That's what the universe gives out. It may sound airy-fairy when I talk about the universe, but that's just the way it is. I've learned all these things, and it's the truth. What you think about, we are what we think about. That's one of the main things I say in my speaking too. We are what we think about.
Okay, so back to vocabulary. So what else should we not say?
The word if. And I have the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. At the end of his book, he has 50 different things starting with the word if. If I wasn't so heavy and I lost some weight, I would be able to do this. If I didn't have so many children, I would be able to. He goes on and on and on. The word if is the biggest two-letter word in the world. Get rid of that. I'm not saying you have to get rid of the word if, but if is an excuse word. Try is an excuse word. If you try, well, I tried and it didn't work. You don't try, you do. You have to follow through. And it's not, I'm not saying any of these things are easy, Julianne. They're not easy. But if you change your mindset, eventually it will start to permeate in your head and it will start to work and you'll get to where you want to go. Another thing, and we talk, I don't want to vacillate and go back and forth, but the best story of all time is Sylvester Stallone that I've ever heard. Here's a guy, I don't know how many people know his story, but he was a very small actor in New York City. He saw a boxing match on television that I remember seeing myself. It was on live TV. It was Muhammad Ali against Chuck Wepner. In this fight, Muhammad Ali did everything he could to knock this guy out, and he wouldn't go down. For 15 rounds, he just punched this guy. I felt so bad for this guy, but he wouldn't go down. So Sylvester Stallone, the reason I'm saying this, Sylvester Stallone got the idea for Rocky. And he wrote a script. He went to over 1,000 directors, got turned down. Some of them he went to 2, 3, 4, 5 times, kept getting turned down. He sold his wife's jewelry from under her nose. She didn't even know about it. She divorced him. I wonder why.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Right. No kidding. There's not a person in the world could blame the wife for divorcing him for doing that. He sold his dog and got his dog back for $10,000 and had to give a guy a part in the movie Rocky, the guy who he sold his dog to. But he finally got the script through after like 1,000 tries. And the director who took it said, Rocky is Ryan O'Neal. No, Rocky is me. You see what happened? Now the guy's worth millions and millions of dollars. And by the way, not to get off the subject, but it's a proven fact that if you do not give up, you will win. It's not easy to not give up, though. A lot of us will go to the last minute and then we give up. I guess we've all heard the story about the guy who sold his farm. He was digging for gold, and he was within 1 inch of finding the gold, and he sold his farm, and somebody else got the gold. So you never know. I mean, but quitting is just not something we should ever do. But sometimes it's just not easy to continue on. At one point, you just have to say. I mean, I had a situation once where I was looking for a job with an oil company, Gulf Oil. And I worked at it, and I finally won. I was still married at the time, and I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've been at this for like 3 months, and I have to just go in another direction. 1 hour later, I got the call and got the job.
So you created that resistance
Yeah.
to finding it. And so I really, let's talk about false positivity, because I love all those words, and I agree with you, because quitting, it doesn't mean sometimes you just have to change, like you said, change the way you're doing it. So if that's not working, you don't have to quit. You may have to find another method, or something different to approach things in a different way to get a different result. So it may be that you don't keep hammering in the same nail over and over again, right? That maybe you have to do something different.
Right.
But there are times when I know I have thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get this, and that didn't come out the way I wanted. Now, maybe it's the way I was thinking, I don't know. But with that said, when do we know that it's false positivity versus action, or how do we know that? Because it's like, I can think positive all day, like I'm going to win the lottery today, but I don't win the lottery today.
Well, I think it all goes under this heading, which is when you have to change something, you just have to decide. You have to make a decision that what you're doing is not working. You have to change. Unfortunately, for most of us, me included, you included, nobody's ever disagreed with me on this before, and you won't be the first. We all expect to be perfect. We're not perfect. What I really want to say is, who can beat yourself up better than you?
Mm-hmm. No one.
And in essence, what that means is we expect to be perfect. So when from what you're saying is, when things don't go right, we just start saying, well, it should have worked already. It should have. No, you do have to change things. That's why it's so important to have help. You can't do everything yourself. That's one of my videos recently was on making sure you have help, because there's only so much you can do as an individual. And you do need help to get some things done. I hope I'm not skirting the issue.
No, I love it. No, yeah. We'll keep circling. Because I want the advice.
Yeah, okay. But so again, we have to get off the fact that we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We are human beings. And one of the problems, and I'll even incorporate this into making money, which I never really did before, so I'm glad I'm speaking to you right now, is that because things don't work out right, or we're not doing what we want, or we're trying to do something and it's not happening, it ends up sometimes being in the money thing, because we're working on something to make money, and then the money's not coming. But all you have to really do is change, like you said, change what you're doing. And maybe, again, the same story with the guy who came within 1 inch of gold. Just change the way you're doing something, and then it'll work. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Let me say this. Would you think, because I don't think, but maybe you do, maybe somebody else does, when you start a brand new business, what are the chances that it's all going to go smoothly?
0.
That's correct. That's the exact answer.
I've done it. It's 0.
That's the exact answer. It is 0. It's impossible. There's no way you're going to start a business and something's not going to go wrong. And I'll tell you something else. Life is full of problems. It's what you do with those problems that, change things around. And let me say this. This is also super important. If everything did go perfect, wouldn't life be boring? think
could
about
be
it.
now. I wouldn't mind being a little bored sometimes, I have
That's
to
okay.
admit.
But if you went, let's say you went 6 months and every single thing you did was perfect and wonderful and everything, you would start, oh, something's wrong here. You might even make something go wrong. But here's an example for you. I know they don't have the slot machines in Vegas anymore where you pull a handle. Now it's pushing buttons or whatever, which bothers. I don't really gamble, but
You know what? Me neither, but there's something about doing this,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it's so much better than pushing the buttons, right? But look at it this way. If every time you push those buttons or you pull that handle, every single solitary time you won, at first it would be great, it would be fantastic, it would be unbelievable. But guess what it would be after a while? If every single time you push that button and you won, it would be a job.
Oh,
It would become a job. That's all it would be, is a job. After you got, so let's say, all right, you won $50 million or whatever, you probably wouldn't need the machines anymore. I get it. But if you stop pulling the handle and every single time you won and there was no excitement and, oh, maybe I'll win, maybe I won't, it becomes a job.
that is true.
So,
Okay, so I want to back up for just a minute because
sure.
we just have a couple of more minutes, and
Okay.
there's one question I have to ask you that all
Sure.
my guests get, but I want to go back just for a minute on, because all this is amazing. Like, it's really, I'm going to try to encapsulate it, but when I think of my money mindset, I am a money worrier. I'm all, I worry, like, am I going to have enough? What's to be my future? Da, 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 da. How do we change our mindset from being like me, which is, I guess it's fear, to feeling comfortable knowing that it's all going to work out with money?
I'm going to help you immensely with what I'm going to say.
Good.
Stop worrying about money, period. Just stop worrying about it. Start saying things like, I have all these mantras that I listen to that I say all the time. And one of them is, I just heard this a couple of weeks ago. By day and by night, I'm prospering in all of my interests.
Okay.
You could say that. You could say, I'm so happy and grateful for what I have had, for what I now have, and what I shall have. Being grateful and having faith is so important. It is so important. And I understand, I have to say this because a lot of people think faith is strictly religiously. It's a connotation of religion. It doesn't have to be that way. If you want it to be that way, that's fine. I'm not telling anybody not to think that. But just having faith is so important. It's also catapults you into a positive thought pattern. And one of the things I want to say before we finish, I have a vision board.
Oh.
And what you do with the vision board is you put these statements on there, like I say, I have gratitude, I have faith. My gratitude strengthens my faith and renews my purpose. You say, I even wrote a check to myself, and I look at that. Okay. And the key to the vision board for me, so to tell everybody, is don't hang it on the wall. Because if you hang it on the wall, after a couple of weeks, you're not going to look at it. It's like, I have a beautiful painting here. I don't look at it every day. I look at it periodically. I keep the vision board down on the ground and I pick it up and I carry it throughout my apartment, 2 or 3 times a day and just read the things on it. I have different sayings. I have places that I want to go, a luxury car that I want to get, a house I want to buy, all these kind of things. Bring it in, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. It's going to happen. You have to have the faith, though, and you also have to have enough gratitude that, here's another one. Stop thinking about what you don't have and think about what you do have. Because that's super important, too. Oh, I don't have this, I don't have, but what about what you do have? Are you driving around in a car? When you drive down the highway and you get off an exit, do you see people begging for money all over the place? And yes, some of them are scams, but some of them are not scams.
Mm-hmm.
And these people, at least we have, thank God we can pay for our next meal. We have some place to sleep. We have a car. I mean, be grateful. Be grateful. And as far as you saying you just worry about money, Julianne, stop worrying about money. And by the way, worry is one of my words here.
No.
Yes. Let me ask you a question. And you got the other one. You nailed the other one when you said 0. Okay?
Oh no, let's hope I get it 100% on this test.
What does the actual act of worry do?
Nothing.
You nailed it. You're 2 for 2. You're 2 for 2. Worry does nothing.
Yay!
Worry does nothing. All you can do with worry is take action.
Yes,
If you sit in a corner and worry, is that going to change anything?
absolutely
I don't
not.
think so. So, that's another. Here's another one. Smile a lot. Smile every day as much as you can. Because when you smile, think and do this later in the mirror. Smile and
Okay.
think if you could see if you could think bad things. You can't.
Okay, I have to try that later.
You can't. About a year or so ago, I dropped my razor in the sink and I looked up and I had this angry look on my face and I just said, wait a minute, what if I smile? And I smiled and it went away like that. There's all kinds of things you could do. You have to have a positive mindset. It goes about with money and anything else. But if you really want to make a lot of money, you have to have a positive mindset. And I think the biggest thing I came up with over the last few months is wish everybody well. And some people say, "Man, I'm not going to wish John Smith well." No, wish him well too. Because when you wish him bad, you're bringing bad to yourself. You're just hurting yourself. Another thing is your physical and mental well-being is so important. When you feel positive, you're going to be in better health. You're going to be in better mental health. You're going to be in better physical health. It makes sense, doesn't it? How many people are sick? How many people are sick mentally, worse physically, ill because of the way they think and the way they go about life?
Right. Yeah, that's saying like sick with worry.
Yeah, sick with worry. Yeah. Smile at somebody when you go into the store. And every once in a while, if you smile to them in the right way, nobody's going to get upset. Most people smile back. And guess what happened? You made your day and you made their day. Another thing I want to bring up is very, very important. Don't talk bad about yourself. Don't talk bad about yourself to yourself. And worse than that, when you with somebody else and you're telling them all these woeful stories about yourself, how is that helping anybody? And you know what they're going to do? They're going to say to you, you think you have it bad? I'll tell you what's bad. And then you go at it. You're going back and forth. Okay, let me ask you a question. Is that helping anybody?
No.
That's not helping anybody.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to try to encapsulate some of the things that I've learned today.
Okay.
So first of all, I have to stop worrying about money. That's my number one. You told me so. But really what I hear from you is that the way we talk to and about ourselves changes our reality. And the thing that I love the most of what you said today is to wish everyone well. If everyone on the planet did that, that would make our world so nice. So I just love that. That is, I think, I don't stop worrying about money. But then just if everybody could go back and think of some of those words, and like you said, to reframe them, to take if out of our vocabulary, and we will see changes. And you made a really big change in your life, which you mentioned at the beginning, which is you worked in the oil industry and the beauty industry. And then you decided to make a change and become a best-selling author of your book, We're All Crazy. And then you are now speaking all over the place. How did you step into your life, getting away from the other things that you weren't enjoying and moving into something that clearly lights up the world?
Yes, that and you pretty much said it. I try to, even before I started this, I try to think of myself as a glass half full guy instead of a glass half empty. And when the pandemic hit, I remember when I got the call that I was being laid off from my job, which certainly made sense. And I said, wait a minute, am I going to sit in the corner in a fetal position and cry all day long? Or am I going to do something about this? And a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, you know what? I never loved the gas station business. It was a given that I was going to the gas station business because my dad was very big in the business. And I never thought twice about it because I knew that I would have a very good job and that when I decided to get married and have children, I would be in good shape. So it never even dawned on me that I wouldn't like it. And I did very, very well in it, even after I was away from my dad and had a partner and we did our own thing. I did even better. Working with family, that's a whole different story.
We'll have to do another one on that.
You're right.
We all have those stories.
I think everybody, it's difficult working with family. But, and then I went into the hair salon business. I just saw an ad in the paper, and actually my ex-wife found it, and my mom was big and always going to the beauty parlor. I said, okay. And I met a guy, and I went into that business, and I was lucky enough to end up with the biggest account in our company.
Oh, wow.
He had 60 salons, and he used to buy crazy amounts from me every single week. And I did very, very well in that business too. But again, I didn't love it. So when the pandemic hit, I said, wait a minute. I'm over 60 years old. Why don't I do something for the first time that I'll actually love? And I love doing what I'm doing now. And I always say, anybody who's doing for a living what they love has the world.
I
Right?
agree. I agree. That's where I am right now.
In answer to your question, that's when it happened, when the pandemic hit. And I don't want to make light of the pandemic.
No.
I really don't. But for me, it was a change of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that ever would have happened. I might have stayed in the job that I was in. I was working for a distributor out here in San Diego, and he had a very small distributorship, and I wasn't writing anywhere near the numbers that I was writing in New York. And it was kind of like, they were very nice and we got along very well and everything, but it just wasn't going as well as I'd like. So basically, when the pandemic hit, it ended up being a positive for me, and I'm still building my business. So I have something to look forward to build this up, to build up my speaking, to build up my book, to build up my coaching, and that's what I'm trying to do. Because the bottom line is, why I'm doing this, I want to help as many people as I can. That's what makes me go. I want to help people.
I love it. So Jerry, thank you for being with us today. We will have all the information on this video so that people can find you for those speaking engagements, so that you can come and help people be more positive, to learn more about how to change their money mindset to be successful and abundant. And I am so grateful today for you for coming on to Step Into Your Life and teaching me a couple of new things. You've made my day.
And you made my day, because I'm just as grateful for you having me on. I really am. I really, truly am.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And everyone, we will see you next time on Step Into Your Life. Let's journey together.